Needing to sell before you buy. Today, we're going to get to the details. Stick with me, guys.
You better get fired up.
Happy Friday, man. Not only do we have the weekend right around the corner, but we got Christmas right around the corner. I hope you're ready. I hope you're enjoying your holidays. This is my favorite time of the year, man. We've got my mother-in-law coming in. We got the tree up. We got the gifts underneath the tree. And I'll tell you, my wife, I drive her nuts because I start listening to Christmas music in July, man. I'm addicted to that stuff. I just love the feeling. I love the family. I love all the traditions, the food, the gifts, the walk in the morning with the family. Like, all of it is just awesome. So, guys, I hope you're feeling even 10% of the love that I'm feeling, and you'll be having a pretty doggone good day. Today, I want to talk about needing to sell your property, the one you currently live in, before you go purchase that next property, right? And before I even delve into all the different things that you're going to want to consider with that, I do want to talk to those people who have the choice. They have the ability to either sell first and then go buy, or go buy and then worry about selling later, right? There's pros and cons to both. And I'd like to touch on some of the highlights for those who have the opportunity to do that. The obvious pro to selling first and then buying is you don't have two mortgage payments, which, man, is that phenomenal. The other big pro, and this is the one that usually forces people into having to sell first, is they need that cash and they need that mortgage off their credit because they can't get approved for the $400,000 mortgage they got plus the new $700,000 mortgage they're about to get. They just don't have that much in their credit file to be able to do, right? So they've got to get rid of one mortgage to pick up another one. Makes complete sense, right? But if you can do it, you're able to get that property sold, and now you can relieve yourself of the financial burdens of having the two payments, which is phenomenal, right? But when it comes to convenience, it's a heck of a lot more convenient if you can buy first and then worry about selling, right? What do I mean by that? If you have to sell first and you're on a timeline, you're going to have to get a property under contract, and you might even want to protect yourself, want to put a contingency in there that says, this offer from my buyer is contingent upon me finding satisfactory housing within 5 days, 10 days, whatever it is you want to do, right? And now you got to go find your place. So you better be on the ball. Here's another thing. You're going to lose a certain amount of buyers because you are requiring that contingency. So now whatever you could get for your home, say it was $450, maybe on average, you're going to get $430, $440 because you're paying for that convenience. And some buyers are going to say, I can't risk it. I'm in the same boat, or I got a rental that's, going to be, coming due. My lease is going to be due, or whatever it is. You're going to lose a certain amount of your buyer pool, right? Which is going to impact your price on average. So it's all about convenience versus money and which is most important to you. If finding that perfect house is what's important to you and you have the ability to own the two at once, go find the perfect house, because it could take you 3 days. It could take you 3 months. Go out and find the perfect house, get it under contract. Now worry about selling your property. If the stars align and everything, which does happen, and it happens often, it's not that crazy. You can get a 45 to 60-day close on this home, put your home on the market, and like one I just put on 2 days ago, it took a day or two to get it under contract, right? It happens, and it happens often, especially if you're priced right, especially if it's staged well, and especially if you've got someone, a professional who's out there, not only negotiating hard for you, but marketing your property, right? So it can be done. However, if you've got to sell first, here's some things I want you to think about, right? Got a whole list here. Number one is the timing. So, and I'm going to use some good friends of mine right now who are selling, because they're the perfect example of this, right? They've got a home that is being built for them by a local builder, and they were told this home will be done mid-February, okay? So they said, Joe, this was probably 6 months ago, Joe, when do we put our home in the market? I said, well, we don't know when we're going to get an offer. You might get an offer on day one, which is what happened. You might get an offer on month 4. You don't know. I also don't know how aggressive you're going to be in your pricing. If I tell you the home is worth 500, are you going to list it at 500, or are you going to want to start at 525? If you're going to want to start high, odds are it's going to take longer to sell, right? So we went through all the different scenarios, and they decided to put it on. Let's see, it would have been mid-December, early December, but roughly 2 months prior to when they needed to be in that home. Okay. So they're hoping it takes maybe 2-3 weeks to get an offer, and then it wants to close in 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden, we can close, maybe a week or two, or maybe even on the same day as the other one, right? That's the goal. Now, what happened, we did get a buyer, and we did get them to go with our closing date, which was phenomenal. And we did get it under contract. And then what happened? And this is something to consider when you're buying new construction. If you're buying somebody's home, this can still happen, but with new construction, it happens more. They called the builder. The builder said, hey, we had to move your closing date out 2 to 3 weeks. And I told them too, when they called me and told me that, I said, be mentally prepared for that to happen again, right? They want to sell you the home, I promise. That's how they make the money. But the way those builders' contracts are written, 99% of the time, they can do whatever the hell they want, and you're stuck with them. That's the way their contracts are written. They don't use, most of them, normal Florida contracts. They use their lawyers' contracts, right? So it's going to benefit them. So be aware of that. You've got to have a plan. Now, if, I know the plan's inconvenient and everything else, but what do you gain? You gain, I don't have to have 2 mortgage payments. I don't have to worry about getting approved for 2 different loans. There are pros and cons, right? My buddy Alex Haig, he put up a great post today. And, I always say, you don't always have an A+ plan. Sometimes you're choosing between a C- and a B-. And you're so frustrated that your B- isn't an A+, that you're missing the fact that it's the best of your available options. That's how I word it. Now, he stole a post from Ray Dalio, who, if you don't know that guy, he's phenomenal. And this is what his said. It's the same idea, right? But a different quote, a cleaner quote. The best choices are the ones that have more pros than cons, not those that don't have any cons at all. And in this situation, you're not going to have a plan that has no cons. They all have cons. It's looking at the pros and cons in your specific situation and determining which one has the most pros and the least cons, right? And that difference is the value of that option. Which one's got more value? Boom, that's where you need to go. And for some people, that's a C-. And it sucks. But if you let emotions kick in, right, then you're going to move so slowly, you might lose that C- option. And now your best option is a D or worse, right? So be careful. It is tough. It is emotional. It's all kinds of things, frustrating, but make smart decisions. And that's one reason you want a good, solid, experienced, logical realtor by your side, right? So timing can be a concern. Number 2, your purchase. That's a whole nother negotiation. And you could get, let's go back to those dates, right? Let's say their home is going to close on March 1st. And let's say we got the buyer to close on March 1st, and we got the builder is saying, hey, we're going to close on March 1st. But let's not say it's a builder. Let's say it's Dave and Patty, right? Dave and Patty, the home seller. And they're going to sell you their home, so we don't have to worry about changing the closing date or anything like that. But you've got a 10-day inspection. Your buyers are under contract on your current house. You get to day 9, you get your inspection done, and they've got, pick your problem, mold, leaking plumbing underneath the house, the roof is leaking, and the sellers aren't going to negotiate price. and this is why you don't want to necessarily let them know your situation. If they look at your situation, even if it's not true, if they perceive that you're desperate, again, even if it's not true, they're going to come at you more than they would if they don't perceive you're desperate. So you do not want to paint a picture of you being desperate in a lot of situations, right? So be really aware of what information, whether you're a buyer's agent or listing agent, or whether you're that buyer. Be very careful what you share. This is why I do not like buyers and sellers getting together before closing, right? Half the time somebody says something and then they go back to their agent and say, oh my God, they said this. We got to take advantage of them by doing this and blah, blah, blah. And now you've got problems. You got trust issues. You got deals that fall apart, right? So stay away. Let the agents do it. These guys are well rehearsed in this stuff. Now, that's just one thing that could pop up. Here's another thing that could pop up. What if that seller is contingent on the sale for another home? They're doing the same thing you're doing. They're going to buy another home. And that home is new construction, and that home gets extended a week. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to come back to you, the buyer, on their home and say, can we extend a week? To which you're going to say, well, I don't know. I got to call my buyer, see if they'll extend a week. And now they say no. What do you do? Now, if your contract is written correctly, it doesn't matter. You can still close. You're good to go, right? but it depends upon how your contract's written. These are conversations you're absolutely going to want to have. Here's another one, homeless in between. I'm saying that to be dramatic, but in all honesty, you've got to find a solution. So these folks that I'm working with, they are looking at, okay, we're going to close mid-February, but our house isn't going to be ready until maybe the 1st to the middle of March. So we're going to need a 1-month rental. Well, guess what? Anybody they call says, hey, we don't do 1-month rentals. You're going to need to commit to at least 3 months. And they're saying, holy smokes, we don't need 3 months. So now if we're looking at a $3,000 rental, we got to pay $9,000 for 1 month and we get no value out of it. Or we got to become subleasers and go find people who also need it during the other 2 months we don't need it, if we're even allowed to do that. Are we going to live with, my mother-in-law? Maybe you don't have a great relationship with your mother-in-law. Not my mother-in-law. I love my mother-in-law. It's Christmas time. There's so many different things you can do. But really what it comes down to is not focusing on the problem, which is what a lot of people do. They get stressed out and they let the problem take over. It's focusing on solutions, right? Living with the mother-in-law, that's a solution. Maybe finding a rental that costs 3 times more than it should, that's a solution. Airbnb, that's a solution. An extended family vacation, that's a solution. I mean, just solution. Come up with them. And then kind of like I shared with Alex Haig's post, look at the one that has the most pros with the least amount of cons. That's your bread and butter, baby. That's where you want to go. And just doing that analysis with logic rather than emotion and looking at whatever matters most to you, which with most people, it's numbers. But here's the challenge a lot of people have internally, right? It's not just numbers, it's convenience and comfort as well, especially if you're a parent and you're looking at your kids. You don't want them to be uncomfortable, certainly not over the holidays, certainly not while they're in school. So everybody says it's numbers. But when you start digging with a lot of people, there's also an element, and sometimes it's really big, sometimes it's smaller, of comfort and convenience, right? So you've got to take that into consideration, like really be aware of that. Power of attorney or mobile notary. I bring this up because I got this with this one, right? She's going to be gone for the week prior to closing. He's going to be gone for the week of closing. And so we can't really move it up, but the buyer doesn't want to move it back. So what do? You got a lot of options. Sometimes you can pre-sign, right? Now, you can't always pre-sign 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time, but you can pre-sign a day, 2, 3 days ahead if you're the seller and a bunch of things align, which a lot of times they do. That's option 1. Option 2 is you can get a mobile notary. And a mobile notary can help you anywhere. And it is normal and it happens all the time. Probably 20, 30% of my closings involve somebody not even physically showing up to closing. They're signing in New York or California or London. It doesn't matter. Title's done it a million times. So I think people think, oh my God, but Title's thinking, dude, I do this on 20, 30% of our closings. It's no big deal, right? So they got you. Don't worry about that. Third option is a POA or a power of attorney, right? So now my wife can sign over all the rights to me or vice versa. And the one's out of the country, the other one can sign away, right? So there's multiple options for that. Do not fret. In fact, I just got a quote from my title gal on a power of attorney for that exact scenario. It was $75. It's not a big deal. Mobile notary is usually somewhere between free and $250. Not a big deal, right? Here's another one. The move itself, right? And all the movers that you've got coming in, and that's got all aligned. So now if you're starting to move dates at the last minute because this guy's got to move a week out, so you got to move a week out, but will the buyer move a week out? It's not just will the buyer do it and will you do it? It's also, can I coordinate with my movers to come in and get that done? A lot of times movers are out 2, 3, 4 months. That's going to be challenging. Then you get the storage of goods. Are you able to seamlessly move your goods from house A to house B, which is the cheapest, the easiest, the most efficient? Or are you going to have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 week period in there where you're homeless and you're either living at the mother-in-law's or an Airbnb or a rental or whatever? Now what do you do with your goods, right? Especially if it's a rental. Are you going to get the goods delivered to that house, all of them? Or are you going to get some delivered to a storage unit and now you're going to pay storage fees, right? And then you're going to have a second move you're going to pay for. So you want to calculate that in, not just the money, the time, the hassle, the convenience, everything, to you deciding what you're going to accept when it comes to your offer and what you're going to give when it comes to purchasing that next home. And here's the last one, rent backs. Pretty common. We saw it a lot 2-3 years ago because the market was so hot. A seller could basically ask for anything and they got it, right? Little change right now, but people still, generally speaking, want to help people. If I can do something good for you and it doesn't really impact me, most people are going to say yes. So if you've got this scenario I'm talking about where, hey, we got a closing date of February 15th, but my new property is not going to be ready till March 15th, sometimes that new buyer's coming from California or London or wherever, and they're not even going to be in the house for a month, 2 months, 3 months. So to them, it's not a big deal to rent it back to you. In fact, they're going to make $2, $3, $4 or whatever rental payment you come up with. They're going to be able to do that. So now they're making money off of you, which is great for them. You've got the convenience of not having to move twice, which is great for you. And it's super convenient for your kids and your family, which is nice too, right? So I bring up all these things because a lot of people go through this. A lot of people, unless you're just buying a home or you're buying cash or, whatever, you're generally speaking going to see a lot of people who, hey, I've got to sell and then I got to go buy. How does this whole thing work? There's no right or wrong answer. There's pros and cons. And really, it comes down to kind of assessing all the things that I just brought up, looking at your specific scenario and situation and family and, your motivations. Is it money? Is it convenience? Is it, seamlessness? Like, what is it that really drives the decision here? And then trying to stay logical and not emotional, working with the professionals with you, working with title, working with your lender, working with your realtor, your mover, everybody else, to get it done and hopefully fulfill a lot. It's not going to be perfect, a lot of your motivating factors. Guys, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Oh, we got a comment here. Oh, I got a good morning, sir, from Germany. Good morning. If you've got any videos you'd like to see in the future, any ideas you'd like me to touch on, feel free to put it in the comments. We'll always do requested videos. If you've got questions or comments on this video, feel free to put it below and I will always respond. I appreciate you. And again, have an absolutely fantastic weekend.